when you want to apply same styles on multiple pages, when you want to apply same styles on multiple pages, instead of remembering the predefined CSS and all that stuff, we want to use it like a token. Now let us say I opened a Salesforce standard documentation. When you open this Lightning component documentation, now every page that we open, they are maintaining the same fonts, same style, same font weight, the block styles, background, they want to maintain it. Now they don't want to design it. Generally what we do, we create one CSS file, we'll include the CSS file in all the pages and we design it. General web developer, what they do, whatever, if you want to use a common styles for multiple pages, they design one CSS file, they will include that CSS file in every page and apply. When you apply also, we need to remember the name of the classes. But here, we want to design the properties as a token. The same story what we are doing there, the same story what we are doing, creating a CSS class, CSS file, including them in the VF page, including them in the multiple pages, applying the same CSS style. Here, the properties of every element, like font size, the font size is fixed. Now you want to change it. Now you can say, look at the point. When I say font size, now if I am applying a CSS file, I need to go to the CSS file, make a change on the CSS file, again re-upload the file. Now I am taking an external CSS file because I want to use the same properties on more than one page. Because I want to apply the same CSS in more than one page, what we generally do, define one CSS file, include the CSS file as include the file as a file in the VF page or the Lightning component. Then we'll be using those properties. But the drawback here is, if I want to change any property in this, what we do? Again, I need to go to the external CSS file. Modify the file. Again, upload the file as a static resource. Again, re-include the file. Then only the changes will be applied. So I don't want to have this. I want to have modified straight away within the Salesforce. I want the properties to be used in more than one. I want the properties to be used in more than one location. I want the properties to be used in more than one location, or I want the same properties to be used in the same component in multiple locations. But I want to control from a single point, like your custom setting. Then component has a concept called, then we have a concept called tokens. Now when you want same properties to be applied for multiple components, when you want the same components, same properties to be applied for multiple components, when you want the same properties to be applied for multiple components, but I want to control from within the Salesforce only, I don't want to take external files and control it, then I go for a concept called tokens. What was this tokens called? So let me give you, like how you created URA interface, URA event, how you created URA component, URA application, URA event. Like this, we have a concept called URA tokens. What was it called? URA tokens here. Now, these tokens are used to define the properties which can be used in the CSS. This can be used in the CSS in multiple components. URA token. How will you design these URA tokens? Go to the developer console. File. Lightning tokens. The first token we have to take it as a default token. I guess I already created a already default token exists. The first token, okay, lightning token. So we are getting the tokens here. Now, here we are supposed to define token. Now, when you are defining a token attribute, URA tokens. Here, URA tokens we are defining. The first token should be default token always. The first token should be always a default token. Now, here we have URA token name, and token name value. So that name can be used in the CSS. Name value. Now look at the format. When you are using a CSS, generally what we give? Font family will give. Font weight will give it. Font size will give it. Background color value will give it. Instead of giving the values from our end, refer to the values of token and apply it. Generally what we do was generally what we do. This is how we give. What the people are saying is, you draw tokens. Give it like this. Here in the CSS, with token. Now these values, instead of giving these values, I'll have a fixed token like this. The same tokens I'll apply in CSS. So wherever I use that same token, same color, same background, same font will be coming. So with I can say token or T, anything will work. I can use token or I can use T. Okay. Do you get my point here? Instead of giving the values, we can define those values as tokens. We can define that values as tokens. I can apply this token. So wherever I apply the same token, same color will come. So have a fixed colors, fixed fonts, heading, subheading, heading, subheading. Okay, like that we'll be having heading. Okay, subheading, heading font, heading color, heading background, subheading font, subheading. Okay, subheading color, subheading. Okay, font size. Then body font, body. Okay, color. Like this will be giving the properties. So no need to define the values. Wherever we are using, I'll be giving. If it is heading, put as heading font, heading size, heading background color, heading color, subheading. Like that we can have a fixed terms. I can apply the same terms in the CSS, so that all the components which are using these terms will have the same backgrounds, same CSS applied. Did you get my point? Is that was clear? Okay. Instead of defining the values in the CSS, we are defining those values as, instead of defining the values in the CSS, instead of defining the values in the CSS, instead of defining the values in the CSS, we want to define those as a tokens. Instead of defining the values in the CSS, we are defining those as a token. Instead of defining the values in the CSS, we are defining them as a token. We will be applying those tokens in all the components, right? But the point here is, whatever the first token we are creating, that should be a default token. We have to define the first one as what? Default tokens. The first component should be defined as what? Default token. Now look at this. What is the first one we have? Default tokens. Now this default tokens will be applied by every component. Now any other extra tokens you want to define them as separate. Default token extends the token. Now you defined one default tokens. You defined token 1, token 2, token 3, 3 different token files you have created. Default tokens, then first token, first dot tokens, second dot tokens, third dot tokens. Then what should you do? Default tokens extends first dot tokens. Default token extends second dot tokens. Are you getting my point here? So basically, which component will be used? Default tokens will be used in our component. Basically, which tokens will be used? Default tokens will be used. By default, default tokens will be used. By default, which tokens will be used? Default token will be used. By default, which token will be used? Default token will be used. Okay. Every component, no need to, because how does we know we are applying these particular tokens here? Now, how do you know we are applying these particular tokens here? Default tokens will be applied for every component. Default tokens are applied for every component. So, if you want to design any one of your extra components, extends the token. Are you getting my point? Did you get my point? Okay. Let us see the story here. I guess I already defined a default tokens. Let me open the Lightning resource. Because only one default token will be given. The default token we are supposed to use it. I guess I have already created the default token.
Okay, so Satish, the difference with the static resource, like does the token gets included into the component at runtime, or like I was just trying to see how the change in the default token or extend some token, how does it affect?
You go to the token, modify the token. See, in the token, you're giving values, right? You want to change the value, go to the token, modify the value there. It is automatically reflected into all the components.
Okay, so the component during runtime, it will take the token and its value at runtime, not ever when it got compiled.
See, let us take this thing. Does the CSS has anything to do with the compile and runtime?
No.
Right. Okay. When the CSS will be applied? When you're loading the page. Okay. Basically, it's HTML. Right. So when the component is getting loaded, it applies it goes to corresponding style. Whatever the values are given the style, those will be applied on the elements. Then the component will be rendered. Right. At the load time, it takes the corresponding CSS, take the value and make the changes. Now, if I go to token and make the any changes here, whenever the component is reloaded, the changes will be applied on it. Right?
Then how is that beneficial compared to using it in a static resource?
Now, in the static, that's what I told. Now I have a font weight buzzer. Div margin is there. I want to make this margin as 15 pixel. Already I made a CSS file. That CSS file, the same div margin I gave, the div margin is usually 50 elements. I want to change the div margin as 15 pixel. Now tell me how will you achieve it? Now already I have defined a CSS class, CSS file, external file. I want the same file. Why I have okay? Let me give this. I have component 1, component 2, component 3, component 4. In all the 4 components, some message I am printing. I told text color is red. They are not related components. They are 4 independent components. Okay. Now in all the 4, I want to apply text color. Then what will I do? There are 2. Okay, there are first 2 options. One is define the style. In every style, go and tell color equal to red. Go to every component as a style. Every component has a style. Go to the style, define one class and say it's red. When same properties are applied in more than one component, why are you defining those many times? So what I can do, define one CSS file. Okay, define one CSS file. Load this file as static resource. Include the same static resource in multiple files.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Multiple files. Now, later I decide the font color should be modified, font size, okay, font color should be modified as green. I decided font color should be modified as green. Right. Now tell me what should I do?
Change it in the static resource.
Right. Now the static resource is not on the system. I cannot directly change in the static resource. I cannot directly make a change in the static resource. Now I have to go to external file. In the external file, green, then reload the static file. Then reload the static file. Reload the static file. Right? Reload the same static file.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. But when I go to tokens, where was this token? It is also one component. Now if I want to change, I'll say token value color. Right now it is green. I'll make this value green to red. Then automatically what happened? Now, am I doing any extra activity of loading the files and modifying the files externally? Now token is green, I made it as red. Now this value get converted into red. Now which is easy for you now?
I mean, yeah, loading and reloading effect is avoided because it's part of Salesforce offering. Yeah.
Okay.
When the file is something which we load externally. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Next. Here, there's one point. Second point. Here, what you are supposed to remember? Here, you are supposed to apply all the class, entire class. You are supposed to entire class. When you define external CSS, I will define a classes. Either I have to apply entire class or leave the entire class. I cannot use few properties of the class. Now, when I'm using a CSS classes, now when I apply a CSS class, all the properties of the class will be applied. All the properties of the class will be applied. Now I will not say background of this class should be applied, font size should not be applied. When I define any CSS class, dot one, if it has now in this case what I need, I want the same structure but the background color should be different. If you want background color should be different, what should I do?
Define a new class.
If any one property modified, if any one property modified, I have to define a separate CSS. Okay, what token is saying? Token is saying I will not give any classes here. Token is saying I will not give any classes. I will give the attribute properties. I will not give the CSS, I will give the attribute properties. Now, I am giving 4 tokens like this. Out of these 5, whichever you want, you use it. When you go to CSS, a complete class should be used. In the token, what is the advantage? I am not defining as a group. I am defining attributes. Whichever the attributes you want, you use those attributes. You define your own class. In the class, I will use my attribute values. Now, I have defined 3 tokens. I define a token 1. Here it has color. That's what I told. Now, I am just defining the properties. Now you tell me, this is for header you are defining. If you want to use it, use it. This is a CSS for header. This is a CSS for subtitle. I am not forcing you to use all the properties. Now, whichever the properties you want, you can use it. But the point is, no need to remember the values. Values are defined once. Now, if I have to remember color equal to green, color equal to green, red, then it becomes difficult for me. But if I have tokens like this, fixed tokens are there. Header, title. I will go to the tokens and see what are the titles are there. Header color, subtitle color, body color, header font. Now, straight away I will use color, token, header color. Color, token, subtitle color. Font. Token, header font. Background color, header background color. Easy to apply that. Name of the attribute rather than applying the font. Applying the values for the CSS. Instead of giving the values for the CSS, we are assigning those values to the elements. We are referring that values with that elements. It's just like a variable. Now, if I ask you age 30, age 40, age 50, I cannot remember. I'll simply say print age. Because we are holding the data in a variable, easy to refer the value. The same thing I'm doing here. So I can use the required attributes, as per my choice. But when you go to CSS, it is a class, an entire class should be used, entire class should be bypassed. If I want entire structure I want, but 2 properties I want in a different style, then what should I do? Define one more class for it. Getting my point here, right? Okay, Nabha? So basically, it is to reduce the burden of remembering your values. It is to reduce the burden of remembering the CSS values and apply the same values for multiple components. That's the story of this. I hope you got the story, boss. Somebody who has asked me. Is that was clear, boss? Okay.
Yes, it was clear. Thank you.
Now, default tokens. Now what happened? The tokens are given. I think I just copied this example somewhere. Div font, div font weight, div background color, div margin, div text color, my pad. What I will do, writing component. Background is already given.
And so Satish, is the name unique in one token across multiple tokens, because many people can define tokens for their own.
So when you extend, the parent component will override the child component properties. When you extend.
If defined, okay. Yeah, okay.
Apply the style. Go to the okay, let me open the lightning. Preview. Right. Now, div width, height, background I gave. I'll give font color.
So the default token is for entire org or is for just that component?
Entire org. Entire org.
Okay.
Whatever the styles you want, you define the token and default org extend the token. Now, so we have what was that? Caps. Now, right? Right, boss? Okay. Basically, this is the concept of the token. Let us go to the next part of the story. We will try to understand design. I'm just trying to finish off these things which you are finding here. So now if you look at this, we have seen lightning application, lightning component, interface, event, and token. Lightning application, lightning component, lightning interface, lightning event, lightning tokens here. Coming down to the bundles. So here we have controller we have seen, component, controller, helper, style we have seen. Now we have documentation. Okay, that's a critical description you can give it. Then we have renderer, design, renderer and design. Now SVG, previously we used to give the SVG, now we have icons, straight away icons we have. Okay, so there are two things left out here, renderer and design. So what is this renderer? Let us give a quick example. I'll go with the renderer and design, the other two properties what we have. So,
okay, so Satish, before you move on from this tokens, so why did you mention that that example 2 token extends default? Is it by default? We don't need to mention?
by default token is applied.
Okay.
But I told by first token should be parent token should be always default token. By default, that will be applied to everyone. Now, to understand the renderer concept, let us take a quick example. We have a VF page. Just trying to give now let us see how this page will work. So in the Apex class I have this is my story box. Now tell me what is the order of their execution? When I open the page, what is the order of execution? What is the order of execution? Constructor, then action, action, then load the page, then load the page. When we click on button, action is invoked, then this will remove page block. Page block. Okay, this will remove page block. Then reload the page. When you are reloading the page block will be removed. Right? Page block will be removed. Am I right? This is action. When you load, constructor is called, call me is called, page is loaded. Then when you click on the button, the page is reloaded first. Only when the page is reloaded, page block will be lost. Page is reloaded. After the page is reloaded, then page block is removed. Page block is removed. This is the story, right? The same functionality, this is what we have seen in the Visual Force page. Same functionality in the Lightning also we have the similar type of functionality, which is called render, after render, re-render, unrender. Okay, so the same story when I take with the Lightning, first URA handler init method will be called. whenever we are calling the component, whenever we are loading the component, init method will be called. After calling the init method, render method will be called. After calling the render method, component will be loaded. After loading the component, after render will be called. Render the element, render the element. Then after rendering the element, if any event occurs, which is making the changes on the page. Now, when you go to VF page, basic example. Okay. So, component tree, if you open a component tree, what this component tree will tell you? The list of elements what we are going to get. The list of elements what we are going to get will be there in the component tree. In the component tree, which will be displayed now? All these elements will be displayed. Now, one of the element is page block. 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 When you look at the component tree, now one of the element will be what? Page block. One of the element will be page block. Okay. One of the element will be page block. Now when I click on the button, when I click on the button, what is happening? One of the DOM element in the, all these are what? All these are considered as what? DOM elements. All these are considered as what? DOM elements. The structure of the page. The structure of the page will be there. So in the structure of the page, what we are getting, boss? In the structure of the page, when I click on the button, look at the output. What is this? This is invoked by constructor. This is invoked by call me. Then the component is loaded. When I click on the button, page is reloading. When the page is reloading, what was this? This is invoked by invoke method. Then hide. Did you get my point here? Order is what? Constructor, action, then a component is loaded. After component is loaded, when I perform any event, it is calling re-render functionality. Did you follow the Visual Force pages you have done, right? Order you know, right? What is it? Constructor, action, load. Okay, constructor, action, load, any event, okay, which makes the changes in the data, automatically the particular element will be reloaded. After reloading, in case if any element is destroyed, then we are going to perform unrender. So what is the order of execution? Not only lightning, generally what is the order of execution? Our order of execution is what? First, initial action, then followed by action, then followed by load, then followed by after load, then followed by after load means when you are trying to load, render is equal to true, the page is loaded, element is loaded. Render equal to false, don't load it. Then re-render, then unrender. So generally, life cycle of every element will be like this one. What is the life cycle of every component? Init, render, load. Okay, load the element. After render, re-render, then we have unrender. So these are the elements what we have. Now the point here is, if you look at the component, you are finding renderer. You are finding a renderer. For this component, there is a renderer. When you go with a renderer, this renderer will not support any controllers. It only supports helper methods. That renderer will not support any controllers. It only support helpers. Now what I am doing, look at the point. Yura attribute name equal to, just to tell you how they are going to execute. Generally we don't use it. Okay, but as a part of syllabus I am covering it. Component we have call me, v dot my name, invoke from Yura handler. Then we also gave a renderer. Click on the renderer. Render function component com. I told you this will not accept any controller, it only accept helpers. Console dot.
Not even the event
No.
function, it accepts 2 parameters only.
Yes. Only helper actions are given. Console dot log. This is invoked. This is invoked. I mean to say this will not accept any controller functionalities. Whatever that is possible with the component, you can do it directly from here. Okay. But generally, instead of writing the logic here, we pass the component to the helper. From the helper, we'll try to perform the action. So go to the helper and invoke the events on the helper. Okay, on the component in the helper. Everything is supported, but we are not supposed to write the logic here. We are supposed to write the logic in the helper function.
Okay, thank you.
Then, now by default there is a standard render functionality. Now you want to override the standard functionality. That's the reason we are writing it. By default, inbuilt render functionality is there. We are trying to override it. That's the reason you are writing this. What I was supposed to do? Written this dot super. Now render functionality will return some value. The value should be what? Super render. The default base render. Now by default render will be there. Okay. You are trying to write some custom logic to it. Then write your custom logic. Then define this dot super render. Here I am calling helper method. Go to the helper. First component where my name equal to get the value. What was that? Column number 5. Right. So I was calling here. What is the name of the helper? First. Helper dot first. So when is this render called? This render is called after the handler. Init handler will be called after running the init handler. Initialization render will be called after rendering functionality. Component will be loaded. So what was that? Handler, then renderer, then component. Component will be loaded. Why previously we are not done? Boss, previously also it is same, but we not define a custom logic for it. Now if you want to define any custom logic, we are doing it. Otherwise standard render will be called. By default, handler, then followed by render. By default, handler followed by render. Handler followed by render. Now we are defining custom render functionality. Go to this.
And Satish, when you say handler, I think it's only for the init method. If there was a listener, that handler is not called.
Init handler.
Okay, init handler. Okay, thank you.
What was that? C dot call me method. Then invoke from Ura handler. This is invoked from renderer. This is invoked by render helper. Okay. So first what is called? Handler is called. followed by render is called, followed by, okay, render is called. After render, component is loaded. After render, component is loaded. Now go to the next one. After render, is a case sensitive. Let me cross check. Basically, it's a case sensitive smaller capital. Let me cross check. After renderer, okay, let me cross check here. One minute, ma. Is now it's not that. We have just tried out this. Okay, let me cross it. It's a case sensitive. Conceptual is right. Small capital we need to modify it. After renderer, so let me give this small. This is after renderer. Okay. Let's go on. So we got the output here. After this is after render. After render. So go to the concept here. There is invoked. When this component invoked, this component is invoked after. This component is invoked after render. So render after render. Now the concept here is. The concept here is. We need to understand how to invoke re-render. Re-render is what? Reload of the page. When the reload of the page will happen? There is some case sensitive here. This should be smaller capital. Let us check it out. Okay. Now, next, when the component will reload any one of the value changes. Here I gave derive I gave here. Then we have now value in this is going to be changed. Here we have re-render. Re-render. Console.log. So when the page is loaded, this is going to run.
Loaded or reloaded?
Reloaded. When the change happens, one of the DOM element is going to be modified. We can see. So get into the structure here. After A capital and R capital, that's how I missed out. Okay. Now let us move on to the story here. Let me go back to the component. I need to create some event handler. Some event should occur here. So how that event lightning label. Go to the invoke. See, it's just for the sake of life cycle. There's nothing much we are going to do with this. Okay. So here what I'm doing, component dot set v dot city. Right. Go back to the app. We had a submit. Right. Now look at the story here. There's a issue with the super route render itself. But if you look at the point here, what was the functionality? Invoked from Euro handler. This is invoked from renderer. This is invoked from render helper. Invoked from invoke method. Invoke method has modified the data in the component. Because invoke method has modified the data in the component, what we have? Re-render. So when was the re-render functionality called? Re-render functionality was called. Re-render functionality was called. Re-render functionality was called. Re-render functionality was called. Re-render functionality was called after the data was modified in the page. Re-render functionality was called. Re-render functionality was called after the data was modified. Any one of the element in the page is modified. Any one of the element in the page is modified. Any one of the element in the page is modified. Then we are calling re-render call. Because when you click on the button, Hyderabad value is modified. The city value is blank. The city value is blank. Value of the city is blank. The value of the city is blank. I modified this value. I modified the value of the city. When the value of the city is modified, then we are getting it. When the value of the city is modified, we are getting it. Then here only I am giving component dot.
Okay, so Satish, call me function, we are changing the my name, which is also one of the attribute.
But
so will the render function?
One minute. That is call me is what? Handler. After running the handler only, component will be loaded. After component is loaded, any change occurs, re-render will be called. Before loading the component, re-render will not run, no.
Okay. So any other method, like for example, there was a third method which is not part of init. If it changes my name, then re-render will be called.
Come again.
Okay, so call me is part of the init, so the re-render will not call after that. So right now in the helper class, we have call me invoke. Let's say we have third method. So if that method changes my name, then after that re-render will be called.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now move on to the story. What was that? False is not defined. So go back to that. Now Look at the point. This is a components code. If any one of the component is destroyed, 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 then under render function will be called. So basically, render, after render, after render, now look at the story. The functionality is how they are going to run. First handler, then renderer, then after renderer. Then first handler, renderer, component is loaded. After the component is loaded, anything you want to perform after renderer. Okay, after renderer, any event occurs on the page, the renderer will be running. If any one of the component is destroyed, then we are going to get unrendered. Now the story is first init, then followed by render, then component is loaded. After the component is loaded, after renderer, if any one of the element on the component is modified, then re-render. If any one of the component on the if any one of the element in the page is destroyed, unrender. So what is the order? Init, renderer, load the component, then after re-render, if any one of the attribute value is modified or any one of the value is modified, then re-render. If any one of the element is destroyed, unrender. So this is how the elements will be pushed. By default, that's flow. You want to apply any custom logics for that, we'll do it. So really, if you want to apply any custom logics, we'll go with the functionalities one. Right. Okay. So this is a life cycle. Again, init, renderer, load, after renderer, any event occurs, re-render, any one of the event is destroyed, any one of the DOM element is destroyed, unrender. Then let me go to the next quick story. We are the next design. Look at the story boss. I have a component like this. Title. Try to get this story. Now, this at the time of I have designed a component. My component is like this. The component what I designed is image. I have designed this like a generic component. Like this component I designed. I designed a component like this: image, title, subtitle, view. When I'm adding this component to the page, it will ask you what is your image, what is your title, what is your subtitle. Now, I want this to be managed by administrator. If I'm a developer, at the time of invoking a component, I will say attribute title equal to this, attribute subtitle equal to this, attribute image equal to this. If a developer, at the time of invoking it, I will pass the value. Now, I want these values to be passed by administrator when he is adding the component to the page. Now, when I'm adding the component to the page, on the UI, I should get an option. 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 What is your title? Box I should get. I will enter title, subtitle, image, save it. automatically that component with the title, background color, subtitle will be created, added to the page. So I want at the time of adding the component to the page, now it should ask me the properties of the page. Based on the properties what I mentioned, the component should modify and the component should be added to the page. Are you getting my point? So here we go with what? Design. So let me show one of the example. It's okay. I have some predefined example. I'm just copy pasting the component, or else we can just define it with respect to our style. Okay. First, I'll just show one example. Then I'll come back to the designing our own example. First, let me show one predefined example. Let me show some predefined example. Then I'll go with the. So we had our own properties here. I don't require all this stuff. Let me give you raw attribute, name. Let me copy paste it. Okay. First, let us see the built-in example. I'll just show the example which is existing. Right. Then we have a design. In the design, we have design component, attribute, value. We had attribute, label, name. Look at the story. Design, label, and name. This design will be visible to you on detailed page where you are adding. Is this component implemented this? I need to implement the interfaces because I need to use this component on any one of the detail page. Corresponding interfaces need to be implemented. Okay. Let me move on to the story. First, let us see the example. Then we'll discuss line by line. Then, what is the example you given? Design example. We're ready. The moment I add here, it is asking. It is asking the color. Now it is asking the properties here. Based on the properties what I'm giving, it is getting changed here. One more design example. So at the time of adding the component, it is asking the properties here. Are you getting my point? So at the time of adding the component, they are giving the styles. So based on the styles what they have mentioned, we are using it. At the time of adding the component, they are giving the style. At the time of giving a component, they are giving the style. Now you are getting here labels, right? Label, developer name, page type, object. You are getting the properties here, right? What is that? Background color, padding, image URL, font size, font color, This what is mentioned in the design. In the design, attribute background color, name box padding, name log. So whatever that is mentioned here, they are given. Where are these properties given? Background color. This should be given as attribute in the component. Component attribute is the name of the design attribute. Component attribute, design attribute, which both are matching, I can map up. Component attribute, design attribute, if both of them are mapping, the data what I entered there, the data what I entered here, they are stored to the corresponding attribute of the component and the property will be applied. In the design, whatever the attribute name you gave, in the component, whatever the attribute name you give, if both of them are matching, then in the design, this design component will be this. This is the design component. So if both of them are matching, when I enter the data here, the data will be applied to the component. When the same data is applied to the component, then the properties will be given here. Are you getting my points? Are you getting my points here? Okay. Let us give a few examples here. Lightning. Okay, first let me go with some static resource. Go back to our storage. Static resource. New. The resource we got here. Okay. Now go back to the lightning component. Lightning component. So we are designing it. So here we are supposed to implement available for all the pages so that the component can be added to the del page. Okay. We require available for record home page. Then we are going with era attribute name equal to now name equal to img source, name equal to image source, type equal to I took these two components. I want to display my data. When I want to display my data, I want to take image. So what is the image source we give? Image source. Basically, whatever the attribute you are passing here, that attribute we are giving here. Then text color I can say. Let me put this story out. We are giving a first attribute. We are going with image source. When you are going with image source here, go with a design. Here, your attribute name equal to the same name what I give.
Satish, is it aura attribute or design attribute? I remember seeing design attribute last time.
Yeah, I made a mistake. So source image. Then what we have done, go back to the component. Some static resource I communicate. There's my static resource. So it is asking the image URL. Found potential duplicate of this feed. Okay. Some reason, what was that? One minute, let me cross check. The v dot image source img. Just busy in finishing of this topic. Right. This is how we are giving. So whatever the URL we are giving, that concerned URL will be given to that the image. Be putting it. Basically, we are creating a component. Administrator, when he was trying to add the component to the page, we want the administrator to control what need to be displayed in the component. That means the structure is created, generic structure is created, but the values need to be controlled by the administrator. When you want a component with a template, you want to create a component, a generic component you want to create. When the administrator is adding the component to the page, we want to control it generically, what values to be displayed. Then we'll be going for this descent pattern. I hope you got the story, right? So we want the component structure to be designed. Okay, I have not done much examples on this. My duration. Okay, just practically we have not used it anywhere, but as an example, I'm just giving it. I have not used it anywhere in the practically this context in my any one of my freelancing projects. I have not used it anywhere, but basically the purpose of this is to convey generically. If you want to create a component, when the administrator is trying to add this component to the page, then administrator would like to enter the values what need to be displayed. We want to control the fonts or data what need to be displayed. Then we go for this design structures, right, boss? Okay. So basically, this is the story. Fine. So that's all from mine for the day. And next week, I'll be starting the